Hello, greetings today and welcome to this video where we're going to be discussing how you go about homeschooling your children. So we'll dive into all the different subcategories that will answer that question in this video. So if you're a parent considering homeschooling, you're going to need to answer the question like, what are the different developmental goals for my child? What is it that they need to learn at different ages? You want to also, of course, be able to say, what are the legal requirements? What do I have to do legally speaking? If you're a parent considering homeschooling, one of the first things you want to be able to do is figure out the developmental need. How old your child is? What do I need to teach them at those ages? Definitely want to know that. The legal requirements. Well, it's pretty important to know what your legal requirements are going to be if you're homeschooling. What about choosing the curriculum? That's something else you'd want to know. What about the environment? Setting up the best environment at home. How to do that? How to connect with other families. Those are all the things that you'd want to know. I'm going to answer those in this video. For the earliest ages, probably one of the most important things you can do is build the curiosity. Children are innately curious, right? From the time they come out of the womb, they are beginning to absorb the world. So you want to just keep fostering that. Now, of course, you want to begin to set them up to be able to learn language, right? This is both typical, like when we think of reading words, reading, but also mathematics, which is a language as well. It's a language of science, more or less. So you want to begin to make sure you are developing those foundational skills. Reading to them, exposing them to books and literature, getting them engaged in play, and even there's so many different learning games, whether it's the old-fashioned kind of parlor game kind of thing where kids are doing some, categories type things where they clap and say things out. There's lots of different early developmental stage games for that early ages that foster the language development, math development, a lot of play-based stuff. As they get a little bit older, maybe beginning about the age of 8 or so, roughly, you want to begin to get them thinking more about their questions and thinking about how they think. So you're really kind of introducing this idea of cognition and metacognition and understanding how their brain's working. And the more you can kind of develop the different modalities, so we've talked in other videos about visual, auditory, kinesthetic, and all of us have one mode that's more natural to us, which is just the way we are, the way we're kind of wired, but you can develop the others. And again, the further development of grammar and the understanding of language is really what's going on in this stage. Developing independence at that age will lead right into that kind of next age stages where we typically think of like middle school age, pre-teens to early teens, where you're developing even more independence as a learner. Well, that has already begun. Now we're kind of cutting the cords a little bit more and giving them more independence to try to foster that curiosity, that own learning, the direction, really beginning to think logically. We're introducing some logic skills, the idea of communicating better and more professionally. That might not be the word I really want to use, but that's the other thing we're doing. Then that will lead right up into the high school years where just a lot more deeper level thinking, pulling out more research, the really problem solving, all those kind of more advanced thinking skills. That's what you're developing and trying to develop. So the next thing that you really need to do as a parent is check out what the legal requirements are in your state. And fortunately, the internet is available to us, and it's a wonderful, wonderful tool. There's organizations like the Legal Defense Fund for homeschooling families that has a wealth of resources on all the states. So knowing how to get in touch with your department, State Department of Education, and finding out what their homeschool rules and laws are, readily available. You need to do that, go through that checklist, see how you go about meeting those requirements. It's usually fairly straightforward and easy, and it's just a matter then of dotting your I's and crossing your T's. So the next thing parents need to do is start looking at curriculum. And part of this may depend on your child's age. You really want to be clear what your goals are, what you're trying to achieve. And then you want to try to figure out what the value is of what you're getting. So, of course, you're going to need to be able to teach math, right? So what sort of math books, tools, things are out there for math? You want to look at them. There are online versions. There's the old-fashioned book version. There's some real, not just like online taking course kind of thing, but there's some really pretty sophisticated math, computer-based learning that automatically adapt to your child's skill development. So the problems get harder and harder as they get better and better at things. A cautionary thing, especially in those early years, though, I personally, professionally, am deeply concerned about screen time. So you really want to be cautious of that. I'm a strong advocate for the old-fashioned pen, paper, textbooks, particularly at early ages. So reading and writing, right? What sort of programs do you need to do to teach reading? Are they phonics-based? Are they whole language? What's the best approach to use? Those are sort of things that you want to figure out. And then, of course, from my own personal and, again, professional experience, it's what sort of programs are out there that are teaching the all-important mindset skills, because ultimately it's the beliefs that you develop about yourself as a learner, as a person, as a human being, that are going to greatly contribute to your long-term success. Things like persevering in the face of setbacks and learning from others and how to go about doing that and how to actually train your brain to do that. There's not a lot of curriculums out there that do that. So that's something I find vitally important for long-term success that you would want to investigate as well. And again, trying to figure out cost versus value and what am I comparing it to. So next, parents, you want to set up a supportive home environment. So this means decluttering space. So the physical space, there should be a place where students can sit down and do their work, where you can, or you or somebody else who's coming in, teach directly when need to be taught, or where they can be just sitting at their workspace doing the work that you've assigned. Maybe if you are also trying to work from home, you can model working from home. You have your workspace, the child has their workspace, and you begin to teach independent learning skills. One of the great things you can do is have an environment that's free of distractions, where they can concentrate on, where it's supportive and it's warm and it's very positive with all the peripheral, like even positive posters on the walls, things like that, but also where whoever's home with them, whoever's helping, is modeling working in this environment as well. Don't underestimate the value of seeing you working from home, or you being able to do your own learning potentially as well. The last thing you want to be able to do is find other homeschool families that you could connect with. And there's various resources. Once again, the internet's a wonderful place. There's homeschool associations in just about every state that you can reach out to and connect with. And once you connect with one, you're going to begin to connect with others. And it's not much different than when your child gets involved in youth sports organizations or scouting organizations or whatever. You begin to connect with other families who also do the same thing, and that kind of network begins to grow. But reaching out to them and seriously consider actually organizing a homeschool co-op where you can really kind of work as share the load with parents, right? Particularly if you're like a single mom or single dad, or if you're trying to work full-time as well, and you really want to homeschool, but you've got that conflict that can be challenging to overcome. Working with other homeschool families to share the load and share the teaching and get that socialization with your child, it's hugely beneficial on so many fronts. I strongly encourage that and look for that. And again, the use of the internet and homeschool organizations, associations that are going to be your avenue to connecting with them. So let me tell you about Sarah and James. Husband and wife had 2 kids, 10 and 7, and because of different reasons for each child, but they felt like those elementary school years weren't really what they're expecting. Some anxiety with one of their children, and just felt like the older child's creativity wasn't coming through. So they made the decision that they were going to homeschool. So they had to find out what the legal requirements are, make notification to the town that they were going to be pulling the child, they're going to be homeschooling them. They had to know that they were going to be meeting certain curriculum standards. They were going to have to find, in their case, a licensed teacher who'd be willing to sign off on the work they did. So they had to document the work their children were doing. They found the curriculum that they wanted. They figured out how they were going to share the workload, created a nice learning environment, and were able to begin to get their children going with a homeschool education, and they were blossoming. Some of their anxiety was disappearing, and then they began to network, finding other homeschool families so that they could get the socialization, and they also got their kids involved in community like sports and clubs and things like that. So they decided to go down that path and never look back, and their children did very well. I really hope you enjoyed this video and that you take this advice and apply it for those of you who are looking to homeschool. It's a wonderful opportunity for your children. I would also encourage you to subscribe to our channel and check out our other videos and my podcasts. But you also might be interested in registering for our free webinar, Empower and Excel. The link to that will be found in the description for this video, and in that you're going to get a little bit more in-depth information on some of the topics that we covered today, not specifically about homeschool, but just about developing your child's mindset.